This is a trailer to a new podcast that dropped, I guess, yesterday or the day before, called Strike Force 5. The premise of which is that 5 late-night comedians on the main networks, CBS, NBC, ABC, have banded together during the writer's strike when they're not on the air to do a podcast from their homes. Now, I do want to mention at the outset, because at first I heard that these late night hosts, Stephen Colbert, Jimmy Fallon, Seth Meyers, John Oliver, a couple others, as we'll see in the piece here, I thought it was quite scab-like of them to do a podcast while their shows were off the air. Isn't that a betrayal of the writers? Well, to their credits, kind of, they are donating the proceeds of this podcast to the writing staff, and not just the writing staff, but I guess to the staff of the show who is out of work now because of the writers' strike. That's the good news. The bad news is I doubt there are going to be much proceeds, because this doesn't look like something that's going to generate a whole lot of interest. Let's take a look at the trailer for Strike Force 5.
One more time, Jimmy.
Yeah.
Hi, I'm Jimmy Fallon.
I'm Stephen Colbert.
I'm Jimmy Kimmel. I thought when you said Jimmy, you meant me, Jimmy, but you meant Jimmy.
I always mean you.
That's hilarious. What a hilarious joke. That brings out the dad in me. Get it? They're both named Jimmy. So when he said, say it again, Jimmy Fallon started talking, and Jimmy Kimmel thought he was supposed to talk. Get it? This is going to be a great show. What a great show.
These are the jokes. These are the jokes.
That's the trailer-worthy joke.
It's almost like 5 guys who, on the rare occasion that they say something funny, owe it all to people who write the words for them, are trying to do a podcast where they're funny on their own.
Right.
It's almost like that.
That's what they should have done. You know, that's an excellent idea. What they should have done, they should have paid the writers out of pocket to write material for the podcast. Right? This way the writers would make more money because they'd just be guaranteeing them a certain salary. These guys have an average net worth of about $60 or $70 million, so they can afford it, right? Give the writers some money, and then
are the writers allowed?
Set aside money for the crew and the staff and everything.
Are they allowed, because it's a podcast? Are they allowed to write for it?
I would imagine. I mean, it's a podcast. It's not TV.
For the same reason they can do it.
Right, for the same reason they could do it. They're in a performance union as well.
Actually, you make a good point.
Right, these guys are all in SAG-AFTRA, which is on strike as well, right? So really, they can't appear on TV. I guess they could do a podcast. So why not hire the writers to write you some material so that you're not featuring as the joke number 1 in your trailer? Okay, Jimmy, go ahead. Oh, Jimmy Fallon and Jimmy Kimmel both talked at the same time because they're both named Jimmy. Even dad that I am, I think that joke's a little lame. But let's keep watching. And there's a great observation that Russell caught that I did not catch, which he'll make as we see the locales of all of these hosts.
But when you say Seth Meyers, who do you mean?
I mean John Oliver.
It's the 5 of us together.
All right, yeah. Colbert. That's the guest bedroom that he keeps for his junkie third cousin.
Yeah, so here's
when
the
junkie third cousin needs a place to stay, that's where Colbert sticks him. They all and we should feel good about this, because it shows that they are acknowledging that dirtbags like us are a lot cooler than multimillionaires like them, because they're trying to make their shows look like our shows.
Right. So the good observation that Russell had, you can see here, John Oliver, Seth Meyers, Jimmy Kimmel, Stephen Colbert, and Jimmy Fallon. You know, these guys are all worth tens of millions, and they all have luxurious apartments and or mansions and homes. Yet, look at all the backgrounds to all this room. You got John Oliver in a room that looks like my room when I first moved in and didn't put up the high school yearbook backdrop.
And he can't say. And did he purposely frame it like this? Like, oh, look how untechnical I am.
Right,
I don't even know how to frame myself.
Right. I had way too much headroom there, obviously. Then you got Seth Meyers in a dark room with nothing on the walls. Jimmy Kimmel looks like he's in an attic. Looks like there's like plywood behind him. Colbert has the nicest background. Like you said, looks like a guest bedroom, or that may even be a hotel room. Looks like there are 2 beds in there. And then Fallon looks like a squatter in a garage or something. Like, they are very, very obviously trying to downplay the fact that they are uber rich and that the writers and the crew of the shows are, falling on hard times now. Very, very clearly a choice that I missed. Russell caught that. I didn't.
Yeah, they're also trying to hide the fact that they're completely out of touch libs. I want to be nice to the writers, but at the end of the day, how hard is it to say Orange Man bad? I mean, can't you even do that? Right. Can't you even do that right? You really need somebody to write that for you? But all of their shows have collapsed. Late night has collapsed. I mean, some of I think Fallon's show is down 50% from when he took over. Partly that is shifts in viewing habits, to be fair. But partly that is that their shows are unwatchable for anybody who is not just such a foaming at the mouth victim of Trump derangement syndrome that for years on end, they are going to get some kind of satisfaction out of watching a show where there are no jokes other than Trump jokes and jokes about people who don't want to take a vaccine, right?
Right.
Like, who wants to watch that?
That combined with the fact that the medium is really growing obsolete. I mean, Letterman used to be a thing. You'd wait for it at the end of the day. You'd stay up for it. I mean, I wouldn't because I was too young for it when they were really in their prime. But my parents would stay up and they would watch the late show. You'd wait for it at the end of the day before you go to sleep, and it would be a thing. You'd be there to watch it. Now you don't have to do any of that because it's all on YouTube. It's all online. There's podcasts.
You'll watch
and everything.
clips tomorrow.
Right. You'll watch clips tomorrow when they surface. So it's just kind of this obsolete medium here. And combined with the fact that they don't deliver anywhere near a good product. I mean, the closest thing to a good product was the John Oliver show, but even he's jumped the shark a long time ago. Colbert was a talented performance artist on The Daily Show, but once he showed who he really is, he's far less interesting than the rest of them. Right. Like, I think Colbert is probably the worst of these guys, actually.
He should have just stuck to the character.
Yeah,
he should have just kept doing the Colbert Show character forever.
Exactly.
You did not benefit yourself by showing us what you really think and who you really are.
Exactly. Let's watch the rest of this.
Together for maybe an hour a day.
Strike Force 5 is the name of our podcast. Subscribe to it now.
Spotify or wherever else you get your podcasts. But Spotify, you fucks.
So I guess maybe they got a special,
hilarious. He cursed.
Special arrangement.
He
with
cursed
Spotify.
and everything. He insulted the audience. That's the joke. These are the jokes, people. They're such a cringy bunch of little creeps. Why would anyone want to watch that?
That's something to look forward to. Hey, you know what? I don't know if they're going to, this is not CBS's podcast. So maybe on the bright side, once they get the podcast started, we'll be able to make fun of it a little bit because we would make fun of Stephen Colbert every week if we were allowed to. The reason why you don't see any of these late night shows get lambasted in the indie media space is because the networks all copyright them very, very closely. Yeah. They don't sue you, but they'll block the video in certain countries. They'll claim the ad revenue. So it becomes a situation where we just can't. But maybe now that they're on a podcast, we will get to take the piss out of them every now and then. That'll be fun.
And really, can you imagine how many horrible, dumb, ridiculous takes these 5 fucking morons are going to come up with when you stick them on a podcast with no supervision? This is going to be an endless source of material. Right. This is going to be so degrading and humiliating for them. They're going to be so frequently ratioed. My prediction is they give it up within 6 months.
Please clap.